25 years ago, on the 12th of July, I was called in here got a phone call in Ballixton, County Armagh, at a rally, that Martin was very ill. So we made our way here to the prison, and we come to the prison gates here, and I was the only member of the family to be allowed in. So we're brought in here, interviewed and put into a workman's hut, as I thought, a wooden structure, and I was locked in that, and I didn't know what was actually happening till a warder came back. He opened the door, took some details and locked me in again. Come back probably 15 minutes later and brought me into the van and drove me up along the grounds of the prison here, on up, I don't know where, but on up along, and probably to the visiting end of it. And I was brought out of that van into another van with my father and my sister and my brother-in-law was sitting in the van. So I asked them, could they, what was Martin, or how was he? They said he was very ill. But my father didn't want to stay, nor my sister. So my brother-in-law, he offered to stay with me that night, but they wouldn't allow him because he wasn't a blood relation. So that was it then till we got to the prison hospital. And this is the entrance into the hospital 25 years ago. I don't remember very much about it because I was led in by prison warders. Didn't see much, but you had to keep moving on. It wasn't a very nice place to be going in, feeling that my brother was very ill at the time. So kept moving on anyhow. And I was brought into this quarters here. Nobody with me. They wouldn't allow any of my family in, or anybody that came with me at the gate. Bernard McAlliskey was with me at the gate, and Martin's girlfriend then. They wouldn't allow them in through the gate, or to visiting rooms, or to the hospital. So I had to come on my own then, hoping my brother would get later on that night, Francie, that he said he would be here for, if he wasn't here at 8 o'clock, he wouldn't get in through the gate. So he came at 9 o'clock or something like that, but they wouldn't let him in. So I had to stay all night myself inside this building. So go in here now, a very cold place. Now to move through these gates here now towards the room where Martin was. So I can remember this vaguely because Martin had been in this hospital before during the dirty protest, and the force washed them, stripped them, shaved them. He was in with broken fingers and a lot of marks. They were very badly treated then, so it was nothing new for me to come in again then at that particular night, but on a different mission at least. Like before that, he was able to talk to us. He could tell us the stories, what happened, what treatment they got. Very brutal treatment. So still it's not a very nice place to be coming to do an interview or talk to anybody about it. Like it's, you know, it's you feel a bit down on it. But saying that, it has to be, the story has to be told, and no better than the family that's able to tell that story. I was taken straight in through the door, through these doors, to the particular room where Martin was, and I wasn't let out then until Martin died. On my way in here, the gates were locked, they were opened, you were led through. You just followed on till you come to the particular room or ward or whatever you might say it was. There was no other prisoners, only prison warders on this particular corridor here. So you had to just keep moving. It wasn't that one anyhow, because there's a suite, I think it was number 7. At that particular time, on that night, the place was all more or less in darkness. You couldn't see a number on the doors. You were let in through the door. The door was locked behind you. You stayed there till you were let out again. So I think this was the one here where Martin was. This is, I can remember it fairly well. A prison warder sat here on a chair, wearing a white short sleeve shirt, the chains, the keys. Yeah, as just said, when I came into this room, the prison warder sat there. There was a table there with some, I don't know what was on it much, there wasn't a lot, the sink unit. There was a male nurse standing here. He was looking at Martin. I moved round to the other side of the bed, spoke to Martin. He wasn't very well. He spoke into his ear, talked to him. Didn't get any sort of, I told him who I was. So he knew that I was there because he had gripped my hand. And I asked the prison, the nurse, when did this all take place, because Martin was supposed to be very well on Saturday. We got word from our priest to call down to try and get in touch with the prison that Martin wasn't well. Our local priest had visited him, but rang up several times during on Saturday, that would be the 11th of July. They wouldn't, they said there was no cause for concern. Martin was okay, no need for visits or that. And then on the Sunday night, when I was in Ballix, the message come through to go direct to the prison. And arrived into this particular spot, Martin was very ill, so I'd asked the prison, the nurse or medical man or whatever he was wearing a white coat, when did this all take place? He said that he hadn't been very well during the day, but he had been okay before that. So the prison warder, he sat here, his arms folded and a bit of a grin on his face. He was okay. We have been looking after him. He's okay. This didn't have to happen. He's in our hand. He's okay. So that was it. Then I asked them, had there been a doctor in or anything? So they said that the doctor had been in earlier. So later on that particular night, then I asked for the doctor and said, I need a doctor in here. So they got the doctor. He didn't come for maybe 2-3 hours. So the doctor then, in the meantime, then he had come and he set up his monitoring system on this particular wall here to check his heart and all. And that medical nurse or whatever it was, he left. Then there come in another fella, I think by the name of Paul, and asked him, and he said that no, Martin hadn't been well from the day before and all day on Sunday, and he says, I brought him in, I shaved him and washed him and all. So therefore I believed what he was telling me was the truth. And the prison warder and another fellow, the white coat, they weren't telling me the truth anyhow. So I didn't believe them from the word go. So that wore on then, and then I asked for a priest to come in. So said the priest would be in, it was a Father Murphy. He said he lived down the road a bit, he would be in shortly. So we had it on. Father Murphy came in about 2 o'clock in the morning and said prayers with Martin. The priest talked to me and anointed, give him last rites and all that. And that there was very little response from him. He settled down and all that, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, Martin died. So there wasn't much we could do. Once he died, the prison warder, he had changed different times out and in. So the hostess then would have to leave, and they brought us across into a room on the other side of the corridor. And we're locked in that particular room then, and then we're brought back in here again to see Martin and put back into that room again. So Father Murphy then left, and I asked to get a phone call made to they wanted to ring home. And they said the lines were busy, but they would get me a line. So they didn't get me a line till 6 o'clock in the morning, till I got talking to my local priest, and he came down and picked me up. But in the meantime, while I was in that room, a police officer had come in, and he wanted me back in here to identify Martin, that is my brother, and ask some details, and if the undertaker and all these things. So I asked him where the body would be. He said it would be the nearest place to home, so that could be Dungannon, But that was he done his, the way he went then. So we're still waiting to get a phone call. So I was brought back in here again, and Martin's body had gone. The bed was empty, there was no, it had left. So I had to go back into that particular room and wait. And I waited there for hours, as it seemed, till I got through then and got a phone call made. And they got me a line to finish up, but they had to find out who was coming for me and all this. So actually the priest come for me at that particular time, probably it must have been near 7 o'clock in the morning. But before I got the message through to my family, it had come out on the radio that Martin had died at 4 o'clock. So from there on, and I can, the memories of that still fresh in my mind. And they weren't very helpful at any time during this. You know, I began to think, was I a prisoner or was I the visitor or what? But I wasn't treated that very well. Like. And there on, like, you know, it was a hassle then even to get the body out from the morgue. The police were surrounding the place, they wouldn't let the family near the morgue, they were keeping everybody out. The road that we wanted to take the funeral home, they wouldn't even allow that. They wouldn't allow that they were going to escort the funeral. They took us then a different route where there was the 12th of July parade was on, that was on the Monday. And they were going to take us through certain villages. We stopped on the road, the people, you know, there were hundreds of people there, and they got out and they wouldn't allow it. So I said, well, rather than have a hassle on the road, we're stopping every so many yards. And there was police dogs, there was vans, there was, you know, it was getting to a bit down on it, like, so I agreed to do that. And when we came to West Crossroads or Finley's, the police vehicle pulled in and the hearse went towards our part of the country, you know, towards Kappa, and the police didn't interfere anymore on that particular homecoming, that journey, like, from the morgue. So Evan went all right then, he got his funeral. Yeah, when he first went on the hunger strike, they didn't go into the hospital for so many days, like, I think it was maybe 20 days, I'm not sure about that, but they were allowed visits. So I remember coming in here to the hospital along with my brother and sister-in-law to visit Martin on one particular occasion anyhow. Must have got him off the hop. He was out of the bed. He must have been to the bathroom or something like that, and he was out of the bed and he looked like an old man. Very old man. The hair was shaved and face was drawn. But he got back into the bed again and he was in good form, and I told him, you know, I explained to him, like, you know, did he realise what was ahead of him and all this? He says, yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was determined to do what he wanted to do. He said that there was the other 5 other prisoners had died. He knew what was ahead of him, but he said that there was no way that they were giving in any way, that it was their struggle. And the treatment that they got from the come into the prison, and the treatment by the RUC at the courthouses and all this, like, you know, there's no way that they were giving in, or they had stood their ground, and there was no way they were giving in. And we left that particular day, and I remember saying, like, well, hopefully we'll see you again very soon. But that is my last day to see Martin in the prison hospital, because it's a big family and everybody was looking for visits. So it was on that particular night, on the 12th of July, that was my last visit in here to see Martin. Sure, we had visited him over the years, like, you know, in here, like, but on the protest and that, like, times they weren't taking visits, but he was happy enough. He knew what he was doing. He was content with what was going on, like, you know. Everything was no problem to him. I remember on one occasion that I was in here and I chatted to him and talked to him about the hunger strike, and did he know what was, you know, people died on hunger strikes, you know, and did he know what he said? He knew what he was doing, and anybody didn't want any member of the family in to change his mind or take him off it, and he wanted that guarantee. So that's the way it was. We stuck by him to the end. He was a Martin would never, from he started out from he left school, he was very witty. He never would have missed a day's work in his life. He worked at the engineer and he was a fitter and a welder. He spent a term in England working for McAlpines. He came home then and he still worked on. He worked with me in a place named Power Screen. And I left him days like, you know, to work. He never had missed his work all during the time. Like, he was a lad that was very religious. He had no problem with getting up money. He had his own car. He was into that particular time. He dressed well, like he had up-to-date modern clothes. That was the type of him. He was a happy-go-lucky fella, like, you know. But it was hard to believe, you know, that a fella like him that could have changed so much. Like, he had a strong Republican feeling. He had been hustled on the roads. He knew what it was like. We were married at the time, like, so we wouldn't have been on the roads at night as much as he would have been, so we don't know. They were tortured continuing in the roads, harassed. So that led him on to be in the Republican movement. I would say, like, he was going to get their own back on them, and as far as they were concerned, they believed in what they were doing, and the family had to take with that and back him 100%. But many other families were the very same. In our particular area, that was a going thing. Like, it was, you were asked night and day. Even times when I was on the road, like, even the children was all small, they took you out of the car, and you were going on holidays, sort out the suitcases, pull the youngsters' clothes out. We were harassed as well, like, you know. So when you look back on it and you say, Martin's a young fella then, running about, and he had been coming through the mill more so than we had been coming through it. And he had a girlfriend then as well, like. So that was it, like, you know. My mother died in 1970, I suppose, like, it was his two sisters and my father lived at home. So later then he went off to England and still came back home, was home to him. And there was no hassle, like, he was a bright young fella growing up. He was not a problem, you know, very helpful.